Supreme Court to pass directions on the 14th of November. That is the big breaking update we are getting directly from the Supreme Court as we speak with the CJI. They are dictating the order. Let me just go through exactly with the updates that are coming in. Where the police challenging the Places of Worship Act, where the Supreme Court sought centre's response, and it's been more than 2 weeks. The prayer that was being made by the Solicitor General saying that we need at least 2 weeks' time to respond to the case, looking in depth into the act and especially the debates and the discussions that have been taking place. The Supreme Court has given the centre more than 2 weeks' time till the 31st of October. That is the breaking news we're playing out right here on Times Now. Minute by minute updates coming in with the SG for the centre makes a big statement saying that the centre says the Supreme Court remarks in Ayodhya verdict on Places of Worship Act said in a different context where the SC has now asked the centre, SC that means Supreme Court has now asked the centre to also respond to those 11 questions that have been put forth by the senior advocate Dwivedi, also in the case by Ashwini Upadhyay, I beg your pardon, and also saying that as far as Supreme Court will be passing the directions now on the 14th of November. So the ball is now in the court, the centre's court there, Madhav. 14th of November is the time when the matter will be taken up. Ample time for the centre to form its response.
Well, there are 4 very important takeaways. Of course, as you rightly put it, the first and most important point is that it is on the 14th of November that the Supreme Court is expected to pass directions, but they have given the centre time up till the 31st of August. Remember, the centre had sought 2 weeks. More than 2 weeks have been granted. The Solicitor General, in fact, later said that yes, 31st of October on or after that would be the likely time before which the centre would file its response. That plea, of course, being accepted by the Supreme Court. So close to 3 weeks, in fact, being given, 20 days to be more specific. What has also been made as a submission by, in fact, the centre is that the Solicitor General, and he has rightly said so, that in fact in the Places of Worship Act, now this is when the lawyer for Ashwini Upadhyay was submitting that the Places of Worship Act and the context in which the Ayodhya verdict and what it says on the Places of Worship Act, that was a different context, is what the centre has clarified in a submission to what was said by the petitioner's lawyer regarding the comments in the Ayodhya judgment of the Supreme Court itself as far as the Places of Worship Act is concerned. Because remember, the Places of Worship Act has given a specific exemption as far as the Ram Janmabhoomi dispute, as it was then called, and of course later that matter being adjudicated upon by the Supreme Court. So clearly, of course, that comparison is not cannot be made, is perhaps what the Solicitor General was alluding to. And also very, very significantly, the centre has been asked to respond to the 11-point questions that been submitted by the petitioner Ashwini Upadhyay. It would be very, very important to see what the centre has to say as far as those 11 points and questions of law are concerned, because these are very, very basic and very fundamental questions which even question the purpose and the pith and substance of the legislation itself when we're talking about the Places of Worship Act that was passed in 1991. So very, very important questions.
Interrupt you there, Madhav. I'll come back to you. We have Mr. Subramanian Swamy joining us on the phone line. Mr. Swamy, if you've been following up on what's happening in the court, now the centre's been given time to respond as far as this case goes till the 31st of October. That's when the court has decided to set the deadline, sir. Your first thoughts?
Well, in the first hearing on the 9th of September, the government asked for 2 weeks, but they did not respond at all. And now, after 4 weeks, a little more than 4 weeks, they come and say they want another 2 weeks. It appears to me that the government is not serious, because it's a very simple matter. Are you in favor or not in favor? I mean, if they don't want to, they don't want the Kashi Vishwanath and the Madhura temples to be reconstructed. We should say so, that we don't want to disturb it. But instead of that, all they are doing is buying time and delaying the proceedings. Now the court will sit on 15th November, and therefore there's been an unnecessary delay.
Okay, unnecessary delays, what you're saying. Interestingly, Senior Advocate Rakesh Dwivedi, Mr. Swamy, has also submitted 11 questions of law to court for consideration in the case. Very, very interesting questions that have been raised. If you've been following up what's happening in the court, you know, whether the parliament was legislatively competent to enact the Places of Worship Act 1991, whether the act is violative of Article 14 in as much as it discriminates in a hostile manner by restricting operation of the act, so on and so forth. So as many as 11 questions that have been put out, and the centre will also have to come out with a word on the same.
Yes, these are questions. All of us are in our briefs. We have included these questions. So what has been done is just to put it on a simple, straightforward piece of paper for the benefit of the court. But these are questions which are, almost common to almost all the litigants in the case.
Mm-hmm. Also, interestingly, the Solicitor General arguing for the centre said that Ayodhya case comments are not relative here. What do you make of this? Because he says that the remarks on the Places of Worship Act in Ayodhya judgment was in a different context. That too was an issue that was brought up in the court.
It was not an issue that was brought up in the court. He mentioned that. The issue is simply this, whether the constitutional right of judicial review and the constitutional right of Article 32 can be bypassed by an act of parliament when it has been held to be a part of the basic structure. So there is a question whether the whole act will collapse or an alternative. I've suggested another route, saying that basically the issue for all of us is only on Kashi Vishwanath and the Mathura Krishna Janmabhoomi. So those.
All right. Okay. All right. Very important points raised by you, Mr. Swami.